Hello, MoveUP. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Nice to see you. Oh, thank you. I'll start with a little bit of bad news. John Rustad couldn't make it today. It turns out, and he asked me to pass this on, he's superstitious. And he thinks it's bad luck as the corporate candidate to address organized labor on Friday the 13th. It's great to be here. I'll begin by recognizing around the territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And thank you for having us. You can see around me an array of our amazing candidates and MLAs who have been working every day for you, many of whom come from the labor movement. And I'm really glad to have them here. I'll just bear with me for a sec. I want to introduce them to you because they are the backbone of the government that we plan to send to Victoria to work for working people every day in British Columbia. So over here on my far right, not really, Spencer Chandra Herbert, straight out of the West End. We've got Amna Shah, who's joining us here from Surrey, and Jesse Sooner, who's also joining us here from Surrey, new candidates. Is Amna here yet? Okay. Amna's coming. You'll see her come in. And Jesse is sitting beside our Minister of Labour, whose shoes she hopes to fill, and he has done amazing work in his term in government. Harry Baines from Surrey Newton. Ginny Sims joining us here, hardest working MLA out there among all of the various MLAs. They're all tied for first. But she works so hard, coming from the teachers union, a teacher, and she's working hard out there in Surrey every single day. Ginny Sims. Aman Singh, the first Turban Sikh to serve in the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia. He represents Richmond Queensborough, and really glad to see him here. Actually, you know, instead of applause for everybody, we're just gonna, otherwise I'm gonna use all my time. You guys are actually on schedule, and I'll do my best to keep you there. Ria Aurora from Burnaby, coming from the labor movement, you'll know her. We got Paul Choi, he's a former police officer, a business person, the president of the BIA of Koreatown and Burquitlam. Paul Choi is here. George Heyman, your friend and colleague, formerly of the BCGU, Environment Minister for the Government of British Columbia. And just want to recognize that both George and Harry have given their notice to me that they will not be continuing, obviously. So particularly poignant last meeting with MoveUP here at Convention in their official roles, but I'm sure you'll see them again. Henry Yao, MLA for Richmond as well. And then last but certainly not least, Janet Rutledge, amazing Burnaby MLA coming straight out of the labor movement, working for working people every day. Janet, good to see you. From the People's Republic of Burnaby. It is... Oh, geez. We've got two amazing folks that I totally missed. Anne Kang, she is our Minister of Municipal Affairs and Immigration, and she is a really hardworking cabinet minister. Anne Kang, my apologies for missing you. And Linda Lee is running for us for the first time in Richmond, and she's going to bring home that seat to make sure that the people of Richmond get the representation they deserve. Good to see you, Linda. Okay, here we go. I am really glad to be here because we've worked together on some really important things. The folks here in this room, the people you represent, and in our effort to make life better for British Columbians. And the work that, and just a few of the places represented here, from Capilano University to transit workers, BC Hydro, ICBC, Fortis BC, BCAA, ICBC, the work that you're doing every single day, that your members are doing every single day, the way you touch their lives, in some ways, and people don't even realize it. I just want to say thanks for that. You know, it's amazing work. And it's not just where we are right now, working together, it's where we're going. I'll take just one example, BC Hydro, and you know, we take for granted, you flick on the lights are going to go on, and it's easy to lose track of what you've accomplished at BC Hydro and what we're going to accomplish together. In the last 2 years, BC Hydro has sold in excess of $1 billion of hydro to Alberta and to the west coast of the United States. What that means is that hydro rates are able to stay lower and more affordable for British Columbians. And you've done that while ensuring consistent service for British Columbians and maintaining our economic advantage here in the province of cheap, clean power that's powering our economy. And the amazing thing about BC Hydro is when we look at a place like Ontario that made the fateful decision to privatize their public utility, and the difference in the rates between BC and Ontario, the difference in the outcomes in terms of the impact on our public here in British Columbia around affordability versus people who live in dread of getting their hydro bills in Ontario. What we've accomplished here together as British Columbians is an amazing inheritance and responsibility for future generations as well, that we protect it, preserve it, expand it, and enhance that advantage for generations going forward. We've worked with you around a $36 billion expansion of BC Hydro assets across the province because our province is growing so quickly. 180,000 people moved here net last year, more than 300,000 people in the last 2 years. For the homes, for the businesses, for an entirely new industry of green hydrogen generation, for all of the things that are happening in the province, we're going to be calling on you, hydro workers, to build the clean economy of the future that is low carbon, that is prosperous for all British Columbians, that creates jobs in every corner of the province, and I'm so glad you're there for us. Thank you. And Annette touched on this in her remarks. I want to talk about ICBC. You're my favorite. You're all tied for first. We went through the fire together, and our relationship will not be broken. And it's a relationship that benefits British Columbians to the tune of $500 for every driver in this province because of the work we did together. That's the money that we're saving British Columbians. And there was a stark choice in front of us when the mismanagement of the previous government took what is like the only car insurance provider in the province and somehow managed to lose more than $1 billion a year running it. Todd Stone, who was the guy who recently endorsed the Conservative candidate in his constituency before he gave up, he was the minister responsible, and he knew the state of the corporation, and they worked to hide it before the election so that after the election, they could put their plan in place of privatizing ICBC and giving up. And the consequence of that, and again, we can look to Ontario, where they have private insurance, or Alberta, where they have private insurance. And people pay more money, and they get fewer benefits, and they have fewer jobs in the province. ICBC's money that they hold to support drivers who are injured, pay it out over time to support drivers, that fund is invested for the benefit of British Columbians through the BC Investment Management Corporation, which also manages the pensions for the public service in British Columbia, along with many other pensions. We would lose that too. We had to pass a law to say that government was not allowed to take money out of ICBC to make sure that what they did before wouldn't happen again. And now that it's back in black, and now that we played that AC/DC song at the press conference to celebrate that, but now that it's back in the black, now that it's providing returns to drivers, 3 rebates. The media is always like, oh, isn't this trying to, like, election time, whatever? No, this is 3 rebates because ICBC is on financially solid footing, provided to drivers 2 years of guaranteed rate freezes going forward at ICBC because it's solid. These are the benefits of publicly owned, unionized crown corporations that have just one purpose: serving the people of British Columbia. The astonishing thing, when we look at that history, is to hear John Rustad say that if he gets elected, that he will dismantle ICBC and turn British Columbians over to the private insurance companies. It is negligent. It is fiscally irresponsible. It hurts our economy. It deprives us of money invested in our province. It shrinks the investment influence of our entire provincial pension fund. It is the most astonishingly stupid announcement I've ever heard in my entire life, and that is saying something. That is saying something. If you want higher insurance rates, BC Conservative government is for you. I am so proud of the labor movement in British Columbia that is not only interested in its own members. They are also interested in the working conditions of every single person in this province. When we formed government, British Columbia had the lowest minimum wage in Canada. And right now, we have the highest minimum wage in Canada. And you know what they told us? They said, if you do this, if you raise the minimum wage, you're going to put so many people out of work. You're going to destroy the economy. Well, British Columbia has one of the best unemployment rates of the entire country. We're consistently the 2nd or 3rd best unemployment rate in Canada, with a big challenge being finding the skilled workers for the opportunities we have in the province. And you'll say, oh, it's all private. It's all public sector jobs, they say, as if that's a bad thing. Hiring teachers, people in the healthcare system, making sure that that happens. It's not. But I want you to know, for your conversations with friends and family and other people, that we're also top 2 consistently for the creation of private sector jobs in Canada as well. We are the fastest growing big province economy in Canada since we were elected in 2017 by GDP, and since the pandemic by GDP. We're one of just 3 provinces that has had growing per capita GDP of any of the provinces in Canada. We'd be number 1, except for PEI. Oh, PEI. My joke is that they got a new factory and it just sent their numbers through the roof. I'm proud of what we've done on those headline economic indicators, but I'm concerned about the reality faced by British Columbians about the costs of daily life, the challenge that they face around rent, around groceries, around all of these costs. We've got global inflation, central bank interest rates going through the roof, finally starting to come down. And you can see that this isn't just British Columbia. It's across Canada, big topic in the American debates, presidential debates, the price of food, who would have thought? And the solutions that we have to present and that we are presenting are what's different here in British Columbia. Making sure that every kid who goes to school has access to a funded breakfast program so they're not sitting there with an empty stomach. Supporting people with the basics like free birth control and just announced yesterday hormone replacement therapy for women experiencing menopause symptoms. Affordable childcare, saving families $900 a month. You know, when we formed government, childcare was $52 a day on average in our province. Now it's $17 a day, and our target is $10. And we can't stop. We got to keep supporting people wherever we can with the cost of daily life. We got to make sure we're there for British Columbians on this. And one of the most important issues that people face is housing, trying to find a place to live for themselves and their family. When you're looking through Craigslist, trying to find a place to rent, you're thinking, maybe I have the chance to get into the housing market. And that sinking feeling when it's like, oh man, what am I going to do here? Do I have a future in this province? This is a huge issue for our economy. It's an issue for young people. Do I see a future for myself in the province of BC? It's an issue for seniors and be able to retire with dignity. Am I going to be okay? And that's why we have to do all of the things to deal with housing, literally everything. We've got to address the demand side, the empty units with the speculation and vacancy tax that taxes people more money if they leave a house vacant as an investment. We've got to address the excesses of Airbnb and short-term rentals to make sure that when the vacancy rate is lower than 1%, people aren't buying up condos and homes to turn into a hotel room when it needs to be a place for someone to live for the long term. And we have to make sure we're building the homes we need for a growing province. Our plan, experts say, is going to deliver 300,000 attainable middle-income homes across the province of BC, working with municipalities to make sure that housing's built. We're building housing on government. We're not selling off government land to donors, to the government at below assessed value. I don't know if that rings a bell with anyone. We're not doing that. We're using the land to build homes, to build a strong future. That old ICBC headquarters, when you move over to the beautiful new home of ICBC, will turn into a transit-oriented development site with attainable middle-income housing in it, instead of being sold off for luxury towers. That's the difference. That's the difference. And again, when Rustad and the Conservatives look at this, and Rustad gets asked by the media, you know, oh, the NDP housing plan has this and this and this, all these different things. Which piece of that are you going to keep? Which are you going to do differently? What are you going to keep? He had a two-word answer, and that answer was not much. Not much. And I can tell you for certain that the good news is rents are finally starting to come down in the province. They came down 5% in the most recent report released, while rents were up 5% in the rest of Canada, because we're building 4 times more rental housing than Ontario right now. And we got to keep going in that direction, because they're coming down from record highs. But I guarantee you that not taking these steps, not doing this work, is not going to provide better results. It's going to provide so much more challenge and difficulty for people who are just hanging on in our housing market. And on top of that, the one housing policy that John Rustad has committed to is the elimination of rent control in our province. Now imagine being a senior in a home you've lived in for 20 years. You can afford the rent, plan on staying in your place, and finding out that at the end of the calendar year, rent control in British Columbia is over, and your landlord can reset your rent at any level. That's how it works in Ontario. There are stories in Ontario about people getting multi-thousand-dollar rent increases from their landlords. If you think we have a challenge with homelessness now, just wait. Just wait. The choice is very stark in this election, and I need your help and support to help people understand the costs that the Conservatives are going to put on them. Directly out of their pockets, an immediate hike in car insurance rates of $500. Back to the old model on BC Hydro, an 80% increase in rates the time John Rustad was in government. Back to the fees like MSP. This is a special health insurance charge that only British Columbians paid that went up every single year. We can't go back to that. We've got to build the homes people need. We've got to build a strong, clean economy for everybody. We've got to build a strong healthcare system and oppose the $4 billion cut he's proposed for our healthcare system. We can't afford that right now. And we're going to build a strong and powerful vision for our future together. We can solve the housing crisis. We can have strong and responsive healthcare in every corner of this province. We can have a clean economy that's creating jobs for people, and we can do it, but only if we do it together. And so I'm so glad to be here because that is the core of the labor movement. That is the core of MoveUP. That is the core of what you believe in and what we know too. And that's why we're such a great team together. I really look forward to your questions. We're going to do a little Q&A, I understand. Thank you very much for having us here today. We really appreciate it.